Hello and welcome to another episode of the Arena Craft Podcast, a show focused exclusively on Magic the Gathering Arena. I'm Arjuna. This is CGB. How you doing, CGB?
Hi, it's me. I'm Covert Go Blue, also known as CGB, and this time coming to you for another Arena Craft podcast. And I'm excited to be here. We've had a weird week in the arena where it feels like nothing and everything happened all at the same time, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it.
Yep. I feel like Magic is one of those things where, like, there could be beyond nothing to talk about and there'd still be things to talk about, you know? It's like a reality TV show.
It's like podcasting easy mode, because there's always something. We come up with stuff. We just invent stuff when there is nothing. For example, what do you think about this? This is just something I came up with a few seconds. He's already laughing. This isn't even fair. This is something I may have already mentioned and then decided we're doing it on the cast. So literally the best idea I think I've ever had. I don't know if people know this. I'm an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur, started her own business. I started my own business.
I don't speak French. What does that word mean?
An entrepreneur is somebody who creates their own business and employs themselves and runs that business, although probably not the technical definition. But I've started a few companies in my day. It's true. And this one takes the cake. I want to open an ice cream shop with flavors based on Magic cards. And it can also be a card shop. It can be an ice cream and card shop where you can literally go play a deck with Brainstorm in it and then go order a Brainstorm sundae. What do you think? What do you think a Brainstorm ice cream would taste like? Wouldn't it be amazing?
It would have to be really cold, right?
I mean, there's going to be a lot of cold blue cards being used for all of this.
Exactly.
Yes, very cold.
We were talking about like winter orb. You could get like a nice little round popsicle called a winter orb. That'd be pretty
nice.
dope.
Yeah, that would be nice.
How about like, is there a Magic card just called Avalanche?
There's Avalanche Caller. I believe there's an Avalanche from the Ice Age.
Avalanche Caller would be sick.
But I mean, yeah, just Ice Age itself, right? A cold steel heart. No, that sounds a little nasty.
I dig it.
All right.
Yeah. Dude,
but yeah, ice cream parlor, Magic the Gathering themed. A Jace Belair Blizzard if I don't get sued by the Dairy Queen. You know, we got this. Cold Snap. There you go. Cold Snap can be something.
Cold Snap. You could also have like a cinnamon ice cream and call it Fireball.
Yeah, spicy ice cream. Now you're doing it. Yeah, we got to have something for the red mages.
Yeah, I'm into all the spherical stuff, right? Any ice cream that comes in a sphere, that's my speciality.
Oh yeah, we want your comments and we want you to submit in the Discord ideas for ice cream flavors based on Magic cards in celebration of summer and the biggest brain idea I've probably ever had in my life.
So here's a question. What's like Sultai? What would you have in a Sultai ice cream? I was going to say like Rocky Road, but Rocky Road has marshmallows, and those are definitely white, so it wouldn't be Rocky Road.
Well, you'd take salted caramel, and you'd call it like Sultai caramel.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Salted caramel, chocolate. What's the green?
Course. So
what's the green in it?
I mean, I don't really want to throw mint on the caramel, right?
Yeah, mint might be a little weird, huh?
I don't know. What? Oh gosh, getting the green in there can be funky.
Fine. It's fine. It's a mint chip with a caramel swirl in it.
Okay,
that's totally fine, dude. That would taste good.
It's doable. Yeah, exactly.
Green
gets complicated.
Sultai is always a little weird. Doesn't ever quite taste right.
Yeah, it's not for the typical. You know what I mean? No. For example, you were just playing Sultai on ladder, right?
I was, because I am atypical.
Exactly.
I really march to the beat of my own drum, CGB. All right, well, well, this has been fun. So we're already like 5 minutes in, and y'all don't really know what we're talking about today. So let me break this down for you. We have a veritable bevy of topics coming up for you today. First of all, there's been a ban announcement recently we're going to touch on. We've also had some more cards spoiled in multiple different locations. Unfortunately, for those of you who like to think outside of Arena, we're probably not going to talk about historic anthology. I mean, Modern Horizons 2.
Yep,
We're going to give that one a miss. We're going to give that one a miss, but we are going to talk about the other ones. first, I have to do a couple of announcements. Thank you so much to all of our early adopter patrons. We now have a Patreon, patreon.com/ArenaCraft podcast, where you can go and check out our tiers. We have a bunch of cool cats in the lineup. You can become one of them. Go take a look at it. It's a good time. We currently have 35 folks enrolled so far, making wonderful donations. Thank you so much. Like it really was incredible. And you know what blew me away, CGB, is we had on the first day of the Patreon, we had as many S tier, top tier donating Patreon patrons, the most they could donate. We had as many of those as we did at the lowest tier, which just blows my mind, dude.
Cow. Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah. You guys crushed it. Thank you. That was that was insane for a first week. And that first day, I remember being very excited. So big shout out to the patrons. That's you guys are legendary.
Y'all are amazing. Y'all are amazing. So yes, if you enjoy this show and if you would like to see it thrive, that's an excellent way to do so. You can swing by. The memberships start at $2.99 US. It's very affordable, cheaper than a beverage. So just go swing by, check that out. All right, next thing up, we have a question which ties in nicely to something we wanted to talk about. So Spy Mania asks, thoughts on the direction of the historic format? Feels like it will eventually approach modern in terms of speed and power level. Pros and cons, personal preferences, ? All right. So I do want to address that topic. And it ties in with one of the things we wanted to talk about, which is the Thassa's Oracle ban in Historic. So I think, CDB, let's do this. First, let's talk about the ban. Let's talk about how it affects the format. And then we can kind of directly address some of these questions that Spy Mania presented to us.
Okay.
Take it away, CGB. Tell us about what happened with the Oracle ban.
So it was a lot of fun. You know me. I don't just want to give you what happened. I want to tell the saga of a small indie company trying to dance and cope with the modern world. And in this case, the Wizards of the Coast, there's this thing that there's a bizarre thing that happens when they post a ban and restricted announcement. It's always the same format. It's always at the same URL with the only thing changed being the date, and it's always got the same title. So detectives of the internet who probably spend way too much time on Reddit now will just put in like the name of the banned and restricted announcement with different dates to see if anything pops up. If they get a 404 error, then there's nothing. There's no placeholder. There's no page created. But if they get an access denied, they know this page has been created and there will be a ban and restricted announcement. And these heroes of the internet were able to discover this this was on a Wednesday, which right away should be a red flag, because when do they ban stuff? Monday.
It's always Monday.
Yep. Nope. This one came up as a Wednesday, which should have been a red flag. And immediately people started saying that Oracle or Pact is going to get banned. And I, for one, scheduled my next morning. I took the morning off, ready to go live as soon as a ban announcement dropped. And the next day came, and there was no announcement by the usual time, which is about 8 a.m. Pacific. By 11 a.m. Pacific, there was still nothing. By like 3 p.m. Pacific, there was still nothing, and I left the house. I had to go out, and I think my wife's parents were in town. When I got home, I found out that the ban announcement came out like at the very end of the workday, like right at the end of the workday, set to go live the next morning. And then I realized why this is happening now. It is because they push their updates every Thursday, and they don't want to either get developers to work on or pay for an update to be pushed multiple updates a week. So they wanted to push it with their Thursday update, but they didn't want the response from people being like, well, you banned it on Monday. Why didn't you update till Thursday? Because that was always a bit of an outcry. So now their new strategy is we're just banning it. We're announcing it at the end of the day, Wednesday, and making it go live the next morning, which kind of makes sense, but when they've never done it before, I think threw everybody for a loop. And now for those of you just saying, well, but CGB, what was the freaking ban? They banned Thassa's Oracle. They banned Thassa's Oracle from Historic. Not suspended.
Not just straight to the ban hammer.
Straight to the ban.
Here's the irony of it, Covert Co Blue. Here's the irony of it. Is which card number in the Mystical Archive was Thassa's Oracle? It wasn't.
Wrong. Not a spell.
That was a trick question.
Does not live in the Biblioplex. Now let me throw this back to you before I let you finish that thought. Which one of these is a mythic rare and which one is not?
Yeah, that's rough times, man. Rough times.
Do you know anybody who crafted maybe 4 tainted packs just because they thought they were getting their wild cards back? Oh yeah, this guy.
Oh,
he's got 2 thumbs and a lot of regret. This guy right here. Go on.
You know what the deepest irony about that is? There will probably never be a deck that runs 4 tainted packs ever.
Thank you. I needed that. I needed that little dagger. I mean, I thought they would for sure get rid of they said that they were going to be banning stuff from the archive. Sorry. They were going to ban stuff from the archive pretty liberally. That's what they said in case they broke the format. So I thought for sure that cards from the archive were on the watch list, not cards that weren't. Yeah. Dumb. Silly me. Yeah. But I mean, it's like it doesn't work on Arena. The pact is so obnoxiously slow. You can't even execute it on time because it uses up all your ropes. I thought for sure they banned the card that they can't be bothered to code well.
No. So for any of you who aren't aware of this, okay, the combo can go off as soon as turn 3. However, the way that Arena works is you start with 0 banked, what do they call them? Like hourglasses,
timeouts,
right?
Timeouts.
So you start with 0 banked timeouts. The earliest that you can get an additional timeout on Arena if you play very snappily in the early turns of the game is turn 4, which is why this has commonly been referred to as a turn 4 combo deck. Because, back me up if I'm right here, CGB, is it like physically, literally impossible to win with this combo on turn 3? I think that there is actually no mechanical way. Like, the rules allow you to win on turn 3, but there is actually no way to execute that on Arena.
If you want to dig into this, there's a video on my channel called "The Rope is My Win Con." It's got a really nice clickbaity. The very first thing I tried to do was go off on turn 3 or just resolve the pact on turn 2 going into turn 3. And no matter how fast you click, it's impossible. You can't do it.
Right.
You can't do it.
So, and for those of you wondering exactly why this happens, it's because the resolution of the spell is what takes so much of the time, right? So Arena is designed to give you extra time when you're taking game actions, but those game actions have to be like new instances that go on the stack, right? And if you interact with those new instances that go on the stack, Arena bumps you up a tiny little bit of your rope to help combo players keep up, right? But when the entirety of your combo is happening with 1 card on the stack and you have to exile your entire deck, it gives you no rope. And so basically what you're doing is clicking decline, 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 decline.
Yes.
And meanwhile, your rope is just it's just going down. And then basically, here's the bummer part of it, is that when you do timeout, Arena defaults to just exiling your entire deck, right?
Yep.
Which is great if you already had a Thassa's Oracle trigger on the stack. That's a great behavior. But if you didn't, too bad, you die at the beginning of the next turn. So pretty rough.
The core of the fun part about the video was using the rope as the win con. What you can do on turn 4 is you can cast Thassa's Oracle and put a stop on the phase or full control. And with the trigger on the stack, you cast the Tainted Pact with your other 2 mana. And then you just let your rope run to 0. You don't decline anything. You just let yourself rope out, chill. And it exiles the whole library for you. And then the Thassa's Oracle goes off, and you win with no timeouts and auto priority passing. So that's why the clickbaity title of Rope is WinCon is good. I will tell you, I had a really good time watching Ashlizzle stream, though. Somebody did this and used the rope timeout thing on her, and she had a Baleful Mastery. So when the Oracle went to 0 and the trigger was on the stack and there was no library left and there were no timeouts for the opponent, she cast the Baleful Mastery on the Oracle, which forced the other player to draw a card, and they didn't have one in their library and they lost. It was really
rip.
It was great.
That's especially a punish for rope mages, because smart people playing around this can actually make the decision to like go to one card in deck, for example, which plays around the Baleful Mastery plan.
Yep, but not if you're going to do the what they call the lazy rope as win con strategy that I highlighted. So that I made it look a lot better than I should have. That I'll say that it looks really big brain, but it's punishable. Sabotaging innocent mages on the ladder, just trying to make a living. Yeah. Anyway, no more of that.
Okay.
Oracle got banned.
Yep.
It's gone, and I have 4 tainted packs.
Well, you know what this means, Kovac. You got to dust off those Jaces. Just dust off those Jaces and make a really awful like tier 3 deck. What
I saw that was really cool is Crackling Drake. Have you seen this? Crackling Drake with Tainted Pact. It counts cards in exile. So you just make a 20 plus power Crackling Drake and attack. And you don't even have to exile your whole library. You can pick a really great card, put it into your hand, and try to kill them with Crackling Drake.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, with and I suppose it's that jumpstart card that gives creatures haste. You could even conceivably do this all in one turn, just like OTK your opponent as well.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, well, so where does this leave Historic and where does this leave us? Like, what do we take away from this?
Well, as far as Historic becoming Modern, I think that's a disservice to the power level of Modern, because while there are a few cards from Modern in Historic, I don't think the two are close to the same. I look at Modern as like a format of super microtransactions where everything that costs 2 mana is like a huge investment, and there's like you pretty much start double spelling on turn 1 or 2 with spells like Force of Negation and Gut Shot, and like Modern is still so far away from Historic, and I don't think Historic wants to be Modern. I don't think Magic is, and Modern players aren't going to like this, but I don't think Magic is its most accessible when you're doing like 5 to 6 spells for a combination of like 2 to 3 mana, and the game is essentially ending, or interaction is basically required from turn 1 on. I don't think that's what's going to get new players into Magic or get them interested. And you can say that Historic isn't necessarily for new players, but everything I see when I play Ladder and play around in Historic queues, yes, it is. There's a lot of new players playing Historic very often. The amount of lifelink cat decks I play against is kind of testament to that in some ways. So I think that they're going to try to keep it pretty far away from Modern. I think there's still a tremendous gap between the two. So I picture Historic a lot closer to what would it be like? Because
it's a lot closer to Pioneer, right?
I never played Pioneer, but I did watch it, so I would like to agree with that. It was the place where Siege Rhino was a bit too slow, but just comboing off with Nykthos was too fast. Yeah, I think that they really do just want Pioneer out of this, and especially here introducing a bunch of the commands from Dragons of Tarkir. That seems like stuff that was meant for the Pioneer format. If their next anthology has a bunch of cards from Magic Origins, like the Flip Planeswalker cycle, then I'll be like, yeah, that's definitely what's up.
So yeah, it's kind of, I feel like Historic has a selection of really busted cards that Pioneer doesn't have, and vice versa. And so the two, I would say that's the closest format analogous in power level overall. It does, however, seem like Pioneer they've basically, like, they've banned, it seems like, all of the existing cards that were kind of making it a Wild West format, cards like the Inverter of Truth and stuff like that, because it really was a combo format for a hot minute there. So they seem to have kind of gotten rid of a lot of that kind of stuff, and now it's just stabilized, and so unless new standard legal sets are printing cards that break the format, it's kind of reached this equilibrium. Not so in Historic. Historic feels like every 1 or 2 months, it's just a new Wild West, like all over again, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so I think that that's one of the aspects of playing Historic that you've just got to get used to, is that like every new generation, every new printing into the format is basically trying to break the format, and everyone will be trying to break the format always. And I mean, that makes it really dynamic and fun for a lot of people. It's one of the reasons I love playing the format, is because it feels like there's always something new and ridiculous to try out. But I think that that's kind of what people should be expecting. It's almost like Cube in a weird way. Like the feeling of Cube is like everyone's trying to bust it all the time, right? And so I feel like Historic is kind of like the constructed Cube format. That's how I think of it.
I suppose that's one way to look at it. You don't even know, like, you have no idea what's in the cube. They just keep throwing new stuff in the cube constantly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I get what you're saying.
You know,
it's hard to picture another mystical archive anytime soon, but who knows? We didn't know what mystical archive was going to be till it happened to us. And it's hard to picture the Shadows over Innistrad remastered, like, breaking the format, given the cards that are in it. There's a lot of sweet cards, but I don't see them as broken compared to what's there. But then again, who knows? They put a whole bunch of stuff in Amonkhet just because they could. So they'll do whatever they feel like with Historic, I guess.
There are just a couple of cards in the Shadows block that do make me a little nervous. Cards like Emrakul, the Promised End, cards like Traverse the Ulvenwald. And I could definitely see some Tireless Tracker decks popping up, you know? That card is probably not going to break anything, but, you know, I don't know, man. I think, like, there's like, think about, like, Tireless Tracker in company decks. Like, that could actually start to become a pretty obnoxious thing.
Oh, yeah. The only thing I haven't done with my Fabled Passage is a Tireless Tracker, you know? Like, that's what we need.
Exactly.
We've done Omnath. You had Omnath. Now check out Tireless Tracker.
So, yeah, but I agree. There are some base level things that are holding Historic back from reaching too powerful. One of them is fetch lands. Until we get fetch lands in Historic, it will just not be able to keep up with, like, these older Eternal formats. So that's kind of like ground level one. And then there are, a number of other just base level things like free counter spells. The only free counter spell we have in Historic still costs you very, very much mana.
I would still prefer that was never there, to be honest. Like, I agree. I hate that they introduced 0 mana instant speed spells to the Arena client at all. Yeah. Just now we're just clicking through every phase from turn 1, you know, or to bluff it, we have to be on full control at all times. It's terrible.
Yeah. I agree. So, that's kind of a vague answer, Spy Mania, but I think for now, I think that so there's a couple of things Historic has proven to us. One is that Historic is a creature format. It's not going to stop becoming a creature format anytime soon, probably. So whether that means like your Aura's creatures or your Selesnya creatures or, you know, your Goblins creatures, like, it's still managed to be like in a format with access to so many combo options and so many powerful things like Nissa and stuff like that, you know, powerful planeswalkers like Teferi, powerful planeswalkers like Narset, for example. It still somehow manages to be like this incredibly creature heavy format in which decks like Jund can actually dominate, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think that that's going to be changing anytime soon. I predicted that it would with the release of the Mystical Archive, and the format proved to be surprisingly resilient to those cards. So yeah, I think you should expect it to remain a creature-centric format. I think that, you know, we've seen that Control has tended to do kind of fairly well because Control versus creatures is just kind of an age-old matchup in Magic, right?
Yeah, the control mages will not be deterred. They always try to find a way, even when it's a bad idea. I wonder how I know. Just saying, because a friend of mine might go through this often. I would also say from the anthology coming up, I think the 3 of the best cards are Kolaghan's Command, Dramoka's Command, and Atarka's Command. They all reward you for having a creature presence in your deck. I agree with what you said, and I think it's going to continue to push in that direction.
Yep. Final thing is that people won't stop playing Control X in Historic as long as Gabriel Nassif is playing the format. So I feel like Gabriel Nassif is like 50% of the meta-defining brewing that's happening in Historic right now.
The other 50% is Mistman.
Yeah. No joke.
All control decks all the time.
So that's where I would leave you. If you want to learn more about the Historic format, go watch Gabriel Nassif play. He's very enlightening, just excellent content creator and one of the best people playing the game right now. And basically anytime he's really devoted to the game, he is one of the best. Final thing, Covert Go Blue. Mm-hmm. How rough is it for you to lose our bet like a mere 4 days beyond the deadline, man? I mean, that's just gotta hurt, right?
That and the fact that I have those 4 tainted packs are the 2 things that have made my week just more painful than average. So I should have had a good week. I should have been a happy man today. I should have had a really good week. I smashed so much mono red this week on ladder across multiple formats. I should be smiling, but no, I'm sitting here with 4 tainted packs and a bet that I lost because my timing was bad. If I was smart, I definitely would have made it the week after the MPL play. You know what I mean? Because obviously they're not going to change it for that event, but that's on me. It's on me.
Well, I just get the satisfaction of saying, have I ever lost a bet on this podcast, Covert Go Blue? I don't think I've lost a single bet that I've made.
Really? You didn't take... I know that I said that there was going to be a top 8 with, I think I said 32 Omnaths. Did you take the other side of that? Did
I take the under on that?
Or did you just say that's an interesting one and leave it at that?
I don't know if I took the under, but you definitely won that one.
Okay. Got to bring up a win right now, or I'm just going to melt into obscurity.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It does kind of suck because I think in spirit you won this last bet, but unfortunately the letter of the law ruled against your favor anyway.
Okay. All right. Covert Go loser here checking in. What's the next topic? Can we move on?
Covert Go singing the blues. So speaking of Historic, they did actually spoil the last couple of cards in the Historic anthology. So we did actually end up getting 25 cards in the anthology, of which Elesh Norn was one. So we read Elesh Norn last week. We're not going to go in depth about that, but basically she's awesome. If there are creature formats like lots of small creatures running around in Historic, then strategies that focus on cheating Elesh Norn into play could be a real thing. So keep an eye out for her. The last 2 cards that they spoiled were what?
One is Into the North. Into the North is from Cold Snap, or I'm not positive on that, but it's 1 in a green sorcery. Search your library for a snowland and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So we got Rampant Growth, which is interesting because we haven't had a Rampant Growth type effect in a while in Historic. We've had Growth Spiral and Explore. We haven't had that guaranteed find land put on battlefield type thing, but there's a new development with Snowlands. This can get dual lands because there are now the common cycle of snow dual lands. Like I think Arctic Tunnel is an example of one. So is there a world where you want a snow mana base and you're willing to play a couple comes into play tap dual lands that you can fetch up? I don't know, but it's a thing. It's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, it is a rampant growth, right? In a sense. and
You
that
just have to
definitely
run
counts
snow.
for something. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a card to look out for. I think the real question is whether snow decks become a thing, but assuming they do, yeah, pretty good.
It's going to need a lot more support than Kaldheim. I mean, especially
It
in
will.
Historic. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe
Ice
you
Age
know,
Remasters. Ice Age Remasters will do it.
there you go. Plus, it'll keep our ice cream shop in business. I'm trying to think though. I guess Colligan's Command was one of the not revealed cards, and
It
we
was.
already did cover that. So okay, so that rounds out the historic anthology. So yeah, just to kind of retouch on that, I do think that this is going to be a really important anthology, kind of like reprising what CGB said. This might be the best anthology so far. If we're speaking with like strictly sets that are labeled historic anthology, and I think I agree with you.
Yeah, haven't changed that opinion either. Looking forward to trying them out.
Yep. Do you have like what's the card that you're most excited right now to throw into a deck and mess around with?
So it's kind of cheating because this deck didn't necessarily need these cards, but I'm looking at like a 4-color Unburial Rites deck that in the past mostly focused on Scholar of Lost Troves to get an Emergent Ultimatum or Time Warp or Mind's Desire and things like that. But now it can throw in the Blue Praetor and the White Praetor, Elishanorn and Gitaxis.
Yes.
And I think reanimating those as a backup plan when you don't find your Scholars or when your Scholars might not be the best option is going to be sweet. So probably just trying like 2 of each of those if we can make room for them in the deck. And they're also ultimatum hits. If you just want to see your opponent squirm, it's going to be fun.
Oh, baby. I love it. I love it. Yeah, for me, you know, I somehow in the last number of months became a silly little artifact aggro player in Historic. So me and my Tempered Steel are just going to be trying out Caught Homunculuses and, you know, Vault Scourges and seeing if we can get there.
Okay. I'm sorry. I look at these cards and I'm like, oh yeah, look at these 7 and 8 mana mythics with these game breaking effects, and you're just like, that could be a 1 mana 2/2. That with my 3 mana enchantment could be a 4/4. Let's go.
Hey man, I think it may have been a little while since you faced off against Tempered Steel.
Oh, you
God
think
is
I'm
no joke, man.
you think I'm underestimating the Tempered Steel deck? Okay. All right. You want to bet? Are we going to bet on the viability of Tempered Steel? Do you want to bet if an MPL player plays a Tempered Steel deck before the release of Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, if we're gonna bet on Tempered Steel, we have to put something from this historic anthology as a counter bet as well.
No, we don't. There was no. What was the counter when I lost the last one?
Well, I'm not taking that bet, so there you go.
Okay, I see how it is. That's fine.
You know,
that's fine. You go storm the ladder.
Silly. I might be silly, Covert Go Blue, but I am not an idiot. So
he's not stupid.
Though some people watching this channel do tend to disagree. But anyway, so okay, that's Historic Anthology number 5. But wait, there's more, because we actually also have had additional cards spoiled for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, the D&D set, which is coming up.
Remember how we talked about that really brief spoiler season that, well, they just started dropping cards randomly a few months in advance, so it's fine.
Killing me, bro.
It's fine.
Actually just killing me over here.
They just don't want us to talk about anything else, but that's okay.
Yeah. Free advertising, Covert Go Blue. That's what we've become. It's just free advertising. All right. So they have released some character cards which will have a lot of resonance for people who know about D&D and mean nothing to me. But, you know, these cards are fairly sweet. I wasn't trying to dig.
No, you're right. You're actually right.
No diss.
Some of these characters, if you've read the books, are like, whoa, whoa, and if you haven't, are very meh, and that's what you're getting at. And you're right. You're 100% right. When I see Bruno Battlehammer and Drizdo Erden, I'm like, oh, that is freaking sweet, because I've read the books, but I've actually never looked at any of the art other than the cover art of the books. So seeing them brought to life sort of in a card is really exciting. Seeing the different kinds of art is exciting. Reading how they like even things like their types, right? You start analyzing it like, really, I thought that this character would be this, but if you've never heard of these characters, these probably look like pretty medium cards. Sorry for the spoiler-ish. So it's an interesting experience what they're doing here with releasing these now.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that interested me most is that they have given us what I believe to be our first planeswalker who cannot planeswalk, which was a really, really interesting thing. So I was reading maybe it was Aaron Forsyth. It was one of the two. Mark Rosewater or Aaron Forsyth was answering some questions about this. And they confirmed that the planeswalker type, card type, is like important enough to them that they wanted to include planeswalkers in this set, regardless of whether the characters in them could canonically planeswalk.
But
I
there
thought
are
that was really interesting.
There are like, you can like move between the realms, right? You can like walk between realms in D&D, which are different from planes, but they did say in a video that they wanted it to be characters who have moved between realms in the Forgotten Realms. Is what they said. But they haven't been outside it canonically.
Right. So that they're realm walkers, which I think is what we need to call these cards.
Should be a type.
The one that I'm referencing here is called Lolth, Spider Queen. So, I mean, for starters, the name is just puts a smile on my face.
Lol.
And what does Lolth get up to? So Lolth is 3 black. For a Realm Walker at 4 loyalty. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Lolth Spider Queen. First ability, 0 loyalty. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. Then -3, create 2 2/1 black spider creature tokens with menace and reach. Spiders with greater power than toughness. How about that? And the final ultimate, -8, you get an emblem with whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control. If that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference, which is kind of a complicated little emblem when you think about it. But, we won't hold that against you, Lolth. All right. Yeah. So, Covert Go Blue, your initial thoughts on the LOL Spider Queen.
Those spiders are tough. Like, and not in the toughness realm. Like, they actually have stats and abilities. Like, a -3 that generates 4 points of power with menace, like, can get busy, and reach can defend. And when you think about it, in a lot of situations, that -3 is just a -1, because if they kill those 2 spiders, you get the loyalty back. If they attack and you block with those spiders, you get the loyalty back, because whenever a creature you control dies, even if it's a token, you get another loyalty counter on your Spider Queen. So that's pretty cool in a lot of ways. This card can both get aggressive, and if it's just sitting on the battlefield, they can't ignore it because it draws you an extra card every single turn. So I think this card is kind of sweet. I just, 5 mana is a lot. But I think that this is actually a very sweet card, and yeah, I'm a fan. It's the kind of card I'm going to want to play with a little bit, but it's not the kind of card I usually stick with, because it does play with and around creatures in combat, and I'm more of a planeswalker as a control type of mage. So this is probably going to be a lot more exciting to anybody who's ever put a cat in an oven. You know what I mean? Like this card fits right into that.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing, or like Plum the Forbidden Mages. Anyone who enjoys, any of those kind of sacky decks, I think will enjoy this. Luris, although I guess you can't play this in a Luris companion deck. But yeah, I mean, this card has a lot of options. This registers to me like a analogous power level, or maybe a little weaker than like the Ashiok 5 Planeswalker.
I I think the -8 can really close games, though. If you get the bodies, like, I mean, say you just have an eye twitch and you go get a pest summoning and then you make some spiders. If like one of them hits the opponent and the others are blocked and they build up the loyalty on this sucker, and then you get to -8, like they just can't really stop the damage as long as one thing gets through. And remember, those 2 spiders are menace. Like something's getting through. Something's going to hit.
Well, and here's another thing. It's not unreasonable to think about scenarios in which you play Lolth and then ultimate her the next turn, right? Like, pest summonings and Plumb the Forbiddens and, just any existing creatures that you had out, stuff like that. That could all add up real fast. So if you're able to just like get off a quick ultimate on Lolth, that could be a good time.
Oh, yeah. This card is sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's definitely sweet. All right, take us on to one of these other cards, Kovac Blue.
I'll talk about Dritz-Do'Urden. This is 3 and a green-white for a legendary creature, Elf Ranger. This is a 3/3 creature. It has double strike, and when Dritz enters the battlefield, create Gwenevere, a legendary 4/1 green cat creature token with trample. And whenever a creature dies, if it had power greater than Dritz's power, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Dritz equal to the difference. What do you think? Is this card good?
I mean, it's reminding me of God. What was that Selesnya one that made
You're gonna say Tolsimir, friend to wolves.
Tolsimir. I'm getting Tolsimir vibes, right?
Hold on, I'm gonna impress the hell out of you right here, right now. I just have that one just sitting here.
Oh,
on the table,
just ready to go. And it's
Japanese.
What? That's like a Korean or Japanese version.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I know.
Nice. There you go. So let's see. One of the things I liked about Tolsimir was that it was really good at stabilizing against aggro decks, for example. Drizzt doesn't quite have that same thing going on, right? So Drizzt strikes me as like more of an aggro card. It's got double strike. It makes a 4/1 trampler. Dying creatures put +1/+1 counters on Drizzt. But I mean, I don't know, like it's a lot of stats, right? So Drizzt attacks for 6 on the baseline and, puts a 4/1 into play. So that's like essentially 10 power worth of stats from one card.
Yeah, 10 power from 5 mana.
That's not bad. It's the kind of thing where like if you play a Drizzt and it gets frostbitten and you're left with a 4/1 green cat, it's not the worst, right?
Not the worst. If you can somehow make something die in response and get the +1/+1 counter to laugh at the frostbite, you're feeling smart. Especially if it's the opponent's thing, because it counts their creatures too. It's any creature that might die.
Yeah. Now, the token being legendary is going to be a bummer for, I don't know, Yorion mages, perhaps?
Wah, wah, wah. I don't know. They have to deal with the 4/1, so making another is almost inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets by most things in the format, except like a Lovestruck Beast. I don't know. I mean, so far, this is reading to me like a miss, simply because I feel like it doesn't quite have that kind of surgical sideboard trump that Tolsimir did. But, I mean, it's a powerful card, so it wouldn't surprise me if it showed up somewhere.
I mean, it's going to show up in Limited. If you open this, you're going to be balling.
Baby. Baby.
And I think it's a good card in formats of the past, but it's not an Eldraine format card. It 5 mana basically demands victory, or drawing 1,000,000 cards. Like you'd take Corvold over this card pretty much all the time. And there aren't a ton of other 5-drops that you spend a lot of time being happy to cast. Elder Gargaroth. This thing and Gargaroth tangle oddly because of the double strike, but you would still get value from both. I just think you probably want Gargaroth most of the time. This is a sweet storybook card. I do wish it was pushed more, but I can tell. You can just feel it, right? That when rotation comes, we're going to have a different format that's not going to feel anything like what we're playing right now, especially if cards like these keep getting revealed and based on what we saw in Strixhaven. it is really shaping up to be a whole different type of Magic. And in that type, this is the kind of card that in the past would have made splashes in small numbers in various mid-range decks that would turn out to be competitive.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so this is the kind of card which like could do a reasonable job of pressuring your opponent's planeswalkers, for example, right? It's the kind of card that could line up really nicely in certain mid-rangey metas. If there are certain kinds of control decks being played that don't rely heavily on counter spells, you could maybe see cards like just Do'Urden showing up. So yeah, I mean, and then of course, if we have things that like proc your tokens, or if you get additional ways to get value off of that token entering the battlefield, for example, it could start to add up, right? So I'll keep my eye on Drizzt, and I 100% that this is like a peering around the corner kind of a card, and not a like gonna make a splash right now kind of a card. Let's talk about Bruno Battle Hammer, 2 white red for a 5/3 legendary creature dwarf warrior. Each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. Oh, here we go again. You may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. So this is kind of continuing along that equipment deck theme that they've seemed to be pushing the last number of sets. This card being an uncommon, I think, gives you a clue as to how likely it is to get played, which I think is very unlikely to get played. I mean, it's just rough. Compare any of these cards to Halvar, God of Battle, and none of them line up well. So
that's what I was going to add. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Especially with some of the cards having free equips, such as what Maul of the Skyclaves does. It is notable that you may pay 0 rather than pay the equip cost is a replacement effect. So rather than pay white mana, it's not a reduction. So like rather than pay 2 white and 2 other for the Maul, you can just move the Maul for free. So that's kind of nice, but it is just like this card is. It's just one of those things where I'm sure that there are better options. It is kind of silly to compare it to Halvar, which will always be in the same format, the same standard format as this card. But maybe there's something to play them together. Maybe once when Noda is gone, but then you also have options at 4 mana like Blade Historian. So it's hard to make a case for Bruner, even though Bruner is one of the best characters in the books for sure.
Maybe if there's like some really sweet Magda deck that just needs another dwarf, there you go.
Dwarf should happen, and Magda is waiting for it to happen for sure, because I think that we'll probably see a good amount of dwarves and elves. And remember, those were supported in Kaldheim, but not enough. So that'll be interesting to see if there's tribal decks coming out of this.
I would really love to see a dwarves deck in standard at some point. Like, it just seems like such a perfect setup, and and it just does seem so on theme for the D&D set. So
speaking of on theme for the D&D set, it's Party. People are expecting Party to make a comeback. Bruner is a warrior, but I've already gotten a lot of messages saying Drizzt is not a Party member. Ranger is not a Party type. Sad.
Yep. Is a bummer. But apparently Ranger is like a canonical D&D character type. So there was some discussion about how that it kind of would have been a travesty if Drizzt hadn't been a Ranger. So
true.
There you go.
Yeah. You just can't win them all, I guess.
No, indeed. But
Guinevere should be a spirit. Guinevere is a green cat. Should be a spirit. Yeah, Guinevere should be a spirit 100 million %. Like, that's not unacceptable.
Is that flavor wise the truth?
Oh yeah, she like Guinevere is summoned from the spiritual plane. Dude rubs a necklace, out jumps awesome cat. Awesome spirit freaking cat. It is a spirit.
But does Guinevere go ooh?
Dude, my book. Let me love my book. Do not crap on the lore, all right?
Well, I was just gonna say it sounds like a regular magic summon to me. That's what it sounds like, It's like
comes from the spiritual plane. That's all you need to hear. That should be all you need. Why can't you accept this?
I'll be put in my place.
All right.
I will gracefully acquiesce and acknowledge my ignorance here. All right, CGB. Well, wow. I mean, we could just end our podcast at 50 minutes. Would that be such a travesty?
Yeah.
Okay.
They want more, and we've got more.
So I'm gonna pass the mic over to you, Covert Go Blue, and what do we need to round out this episode to really give our listeners the value that they want?
Well, I thought it would be fun to just talk about some of the stuff that we're playing and doing in Arena right now. Summer is kind of creeping up, which is it has historically been a slow time in Magic. It doesn't look like it's going to be, considering the piles of cards that are getting dropped on us. In-store play is coming back in some areas in the US on the 28th, I believe, for the Modern Horizons release, which I don't know if that's a thing that most of you are going to be doing. But if you are still playing Arena, I just wanted to throw in there that there's some cool stuff to still be done. I've been actually having a lot of luck this last week with interesting decks across several different formats. And you were telling me before we went live that you were playing on ladder and that you ran into several of those decks. And one of the ones that you maybe took an L to, which, someone out there made the CGB dojo proud, playing a blue-white Nico Eris control deck. And I haven't actually lost with this deck yet. I put up the video today saying it was undefeated, and that's not clickbait. I still haven't lost with it on ladder, and I got into top 100. I was around like 70 something earlier today. And this is something I don't think anybody else is exploring, but you're looking at a lot of the usual suspects in Glass Caskets and Omen of the Sea, and we're a Yorion deck, but I'm also using Divide by Zero as the one in best of one. I think the learn cards are still really good. And there's Professor of Symbology. So Blinking Professor with Yorion is really good. Using Divide by Zero to get back Yorion and play it again is really good. Still trying to make Elspeth Conquers Death a thing. I also found Nico really good with Professor of Symbology because you can just rebuy it and get your whole learn board over a couple of turns. You can also use Divide by Zero to bounce Nico after they attack Nico. Then you replay the Nico with X for whatever you can afford. Make a whole bunch more shards, minus the Nico to kill the thing that attacked the Nico.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. So let's just take a moment to appreciate Nico Aris being. I feel like Nico Aris has been a real slow burn in Standard, but this card is good, and I remember we reviewed it quite favorably when it came out, and I'm just happy to see it living up to its potential. I think Nico is low key an amazing card in the format.
That's another one kind of waiting for rotation. I think the biggest problem I keep having with Nico is they bone crush it. Because Nico comes down on 3. Usually you don't use the plus right away because you don't want to bounce something off your battlefield that early in the game. So Nico might come down and -1 and make a shard, and then the opponent bone crushes it, and they attack you with 2 things, and you have a shard on the battlefield, or maybe you killed an Edgewalling Keeper or a Lovestruck Beast token if you're feeling lucky. But it's going to be a long time before you get to use it and leverage that position. So it's just a tough card. Also, it just doesn't happen very often that you get into a situation where you have somewhere between 5 and 8 mana, and you can just take the turn off to be I pump all my mana into making these shards, and now I have this Planeswalker, and on future turns, I will put mana into those shards, and then I'll find the cards I need. That's really hard to do in Standard. The format is so good at just keeping the pressure on at all the time, whether it's using the learn cards in the learn boards or whether it's just using adventure cards. I also want to say really quick, best of 1 is so much different. It's never been more different from best of 3 because I think most best of 1 decks want to use learn somehow, if you can. If you're not using companion or learn, your deck better be absurdly powerful. It better just have a curve out God draw win mono red often does. And even then, I think people are playing mono red too much because they just do. And that's not just because I hate mono red. I honestly think it's not the best call to be making. The white decks get to use the Professor of Symbology. They also get to use Sparring Regimen if they want to. They have good learning stuff to do. The Winota decks are really good like they're just super proactive. They get to use a learn sideboard, and every control deck I've built seems to run something like Divide by Zero, which I still think is a really underrated card because the lessons are just really good in best of one. So I think people need to adjust those net decked best of 3 lists more and make use of the lessons.
I like that feedback. I agree with that. Without having played a super ton of best of one, I was playing some today and just kind of getting familiar with what that format was looking like, and did see a lot of good learning going on. And I totally agree. I think it's an underrated mechanic right now. And there are even cards like like Teach by Example is like a surprisingly playable Magic card. You do have to be a little bit careful about where you play it. But there are just like a lot of good opportunities, I would say, and underexplored opportunities. And I think that we will get to see some of those, especially like when Bone Crusher leaves the format and stuff like that. I could actually see like some of these learn mage crafty decks being quite formidable.
I'm also going to say, the Magecraft decks are really strong. And they honestly, it only feels like they're folding to Bone Crusher Giant right now. That's the feeling. Every game that card is there on turn 2, I feel like I just can't win. But every game where they just don't have it, or they have, just a regular removal card, and then the next turn they cultivate or something, I feel like I'm just smashing. And that's with blue-white, that's with Boros, that's with Silver Quill. Like, there's so many different ways to build the Magecraft decks that, as long as cheap instants and sorceries keep getting introduced, they will get stronger. And I think they're going to be serious players.
Man, I mean, case in point, I was playing against Leon in Lightscribe deck today, and I did manage to clinch the win, but only because my opponent had a pretty weak draw, I would say. And there was this turn where my opponent had the, the 0-1 that gets pumped by the Magecraft.
Yeah, the Clever Lumimancer.
Clever Lumimancer. So my opponent has a Clever Lumimancer in play and like 4 mana, and I have no way to interact with this thing. And I was going through the possible permutations of what they could do. And I was like, man, this thing might deal me like 10 damage this turn, Like I was at 12 life, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not dead this turn, but I couldn't guarantee it. Like it just felt so possible that like the opponent could just chain, like maybe 2 Teach by Example into 2 Show of Confidence or something. And that would just that would be a game winning play right there. So yeah, I feel like you really can't underestimate those decks.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what they become. I've actually had more fun with Magecraft than I thought. I will say, if your deck isn't a monocolor aggro deck, it better be... It really needs to be one of the one of the colleges of Strixhaven, because the Snarls are actually really good for those decks, and they aren't replaceable. Like, you can't run Temples and play, say, a green-white Selesnya aggro deck and expect the results of a Boros Lorehold deck that has Snarls. Yeah. The Snarls actually make a big difference in specifically 2-color aggro. Otherwise, I don't think you need them at all. But in 2-color aggro, you gotta have them. They're really good.
Are you playing any Temples at all, Covert Goblin?
When I do, it feels gross, and I almost always cut them at least for a few games until I get color screwed badly.
I can't remember the last deck I put a Temple in. I actually I net decked a deck recently. I was playing it on stream, and I the first time I realized that it had Temples in it, I was just like, oh no. What are we doing here? I don't know. I might not be giving you the best advice right now, Crafties, but I feel like in a vacuum, just don't play the Temples. All right. Don't play the Temples until you see them in some, Gabriel Nassif's deck or whatever, then play the Temples, but otherwise don't play them.
Even then, you might be better off just rolling the dice with a basic, man. I'm always going to come at it from the best of one perspective. And one thing that I always am surprised when I see people who don't play best of one a lot trying it is that, they're still looking at it from an aspect of I want to run this card for a little bit of value and this card to grind people out. And it's no, best of one's just curving out all the time.
Yeah.
The hand smoothing algorithm makes grinding much less important than curving. Like, you grind incidentally. You have to curve as a startup, as an opening plan, which means, yeah, you're probably running basics over temples.
Yeah. Translation, you're playing blackjack when you play best of one. So you've got to play it accordingly, right? You've got to give yourself the chance to really high roll.
Exactly. Go for it. Live that best life.
Yes, yes, indeed.
The other thing I wanted to mention before we logged off this week, because I don't think we've talked about this on our show. Arjuna, let me take you on a journey. Put yourself in the place of a person who, through fire and flame, through perseverance, through an all-night, just sweaty Magic tryhard fest, got into top 1200 Mythic. All right? And now you get to play the qualifier event. All right? And you get up on that fateful Saturday and you join the event and you battle with your standard deck that you've put months of work into and you're so good at it. You know your matchups for everything. And you battle and you get 7 wins on day 1, which means what do you have to do? You get to play day 2, where you have to get 7 wins on day 2. That is and if you do, you will go and you will play in the STRIXHAVEN set championship, where there will be prize money, pro players, prestige, and the honor of being one of the greatest in the land. All you need are those 7 wins on day 2, Arjuna. That's all you need. So you wake up that morning and you enter with your trusty Sultai deck that you are a true master of in what you believe to be a standard event. And the very first match, you queue up, you're ready, you're flexing, and your opponent goes turn 1, Forest, Llanowar Elves. Arjuna?
Brutal, bro.
Arjuna, now it dawns on you that you are in the historic format with a standard deck, because somebody at Wizards probably copy pasted the last event, which was historic. Day 2 of the qualifier event for the people who got 7 wins on day 1 was historic. It actually launched as historic. And not only did it launch as historic, it remained historic for, I think it was like between 5 or 6 hours. Like the first 5 to 6 hours of the event. I could be wrong on the number. It might be a little more or a little less. It's not very far off of that. And wow, can you imagine? People who wanted to play Winota because of the standard event couldn't, because it's banned in historic.
Oh yeah, it's banned out of that deck. Rip.
People who paid attention to the fine print on the event might have seen it was historic, and they queued up with historic decks. When Wizards got wind of this via Twitter, what they tweeted out for people to do, what they asked people to do was, if you queued up with a standard deck, just proceed. Keep playing.
Just keep going.
If you queued up with a historic deck, please await further instruction. What? Like, do they think that absolutely everybody in this event is checking Twitter? If you're one of the... I'm going to tell you honest. You can say what you want about like integrity that people have. If I had qualified and I woke up and I caught that it was historic, would I have queued up a historic deck? 100%. And I was streamed and recorded it for the content, because that's insane. So,
I mean, that's the event, right? Like,
it is.
You can't blame someone for looking at the event and being like, this is a historic event, and queuing up a historic deck. I think there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So if that happens, anyway, after that tweet, it was like another, I don't know how many hours, but it was over an hour. Like, there was a long amount of time where people are still playing. And then Wizards came in and said they're restarting the whole event. You almost spit out the water.
I know, right? Spit take. So does that mean that like they just erased everyone's records?
Yes.
Savage.
If you had 5 or 6 wins and you only needed like 1 more to go to the championship, too bad. Go again.
I feel like I saw at least one post of someone like getting their 7 wins on day 2 and then learning that it got erased.
Oh,
which is just like so rough, man.
Can you imagine if you logged on early, speed ran it with like mono red or hell Gruul and historic, and then woke up the next day to find it was erased, and you didn't play because they restarted the event and you had to play it now, and you didn't play because you went to bed? Can you imagine?
Well, and it was so rough. So think about, like, let's say if you live in anywhere in Asia, right? Or if you live in
Mm.
Australia, okay? And you were already, so, there's a lot of countries that are like 12 hours off, right? And so maybe those people signed in at like 7 p.m. or whatever, whenever the sign in time was. And then they grind for like the next couple of hours and then they go to bed, right? And they're done. And then, like, yeah. Or,
And
I'll let you go in a moment, but just like, here's another example. Like, let's say that you started a little later, right? And you play until about midnight, and then you realize that not like your whole record's getting erased. And if you want a chance of getting your 7 wins, you're going to have to stay up until like 3 or 4 in the morning. Like, it's so savage.
It is possible that you woke up, joined the queue with a standard deck like you were supposed to, got your 7 wins. And
you could have played against only standard decks as well.
Yep.
Like, let's say that you just got match made against standard decks.
Yep.
Like, nothing was wrong.
Yeah, you could have gotten your 7 wins in a completely legitimate fashion and still had to play the event again. I was feeling really bad on Saturday because I literally missed the event because I forgot to hit the join button. Because for those who don't know, you have to join the event between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And if you don't hit the join button, you're just not in the event. You missed it, GG's. And I was just sitting around the house eating breakfast and watching Twitch, and I just forgot. Like, it honestly hit me like a lightning bolt when I turned on my stream and was like, all right, we're going to go play the qualifier now. Oh, I never joined. And, I don't have a good excuse for that. And I was feeling bad at the time. I was feeling great after this happened. How can you get excited for playing these events when the Arena Open is a spinning black wheel, when the qualifier event is like in the wrong format and then has these weird start stops? Like, I don't know how to get excited about the competitive offerings for Arena until they have a run of success at these things. And until they do, I don't think I'm interested in joining them, to be honest. Like, this has really warped my enthusiasm for it, whereas before it was a fun thing to do with my audience for content. Now it would just be only for like content to see if we can break something or if something gets broken.
Yeah, you're like playing the most serious event of the month, right, as a meme. Like, it becomes a meme because that's how seriously Wizards seems to be taking it, right?
So that's rough. And I thought that we should highlight it in case anybody out there has aspirations to go through these and they don't follow like the Twitter account, which I don't blame people if they don't want to use Twitter. It's 2021. There should be a lot of ways to hear about these things. So if you just listen to a podcast and don't follow Wizards on Twitter, I want you to know what's going on with some of these events on Arena, because I'm not going to be jumping into them until I see a streak of like good results. And on top of that, I just want to also say, to my knowledge, they still haven't announced if there is a qualifier event next month for the people who are trying to top 1,200 this month. They still haven't announced anything for next month. So
who knows?
I wouldn't worry too much about your ladder position right now if I were you out there.
It's all up in the air, man. It really is. It's just like nothing seems to mean anything anymore. So
not in the competitive standpoint, but I mean, it's still fun.
That's it. I think that's the takeaway, is that I just really feel like you should be playing Magic for fun right now.
Yes.
And there's plenty of fun stuff to be doing, so that's what I'm doing. I'm not like, I don't give a rip about my freaking rank, dude. And here's the thing, is like, beyond that kind of stuff, Arena gives you basically no incentive, right? It's like the difference in reward between Platinum and Mythic is like 1 pack or something. Yeah. It's just laughable.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the best thing right there was that you should be playing for fun right now. I'm not mad at people complaining about what's going on with organized play out there. I think that the writing on the wall, though, is that once you've kind of moved through those feelings, if you're trying to figure out a reason to engage with Magic, just try to remember it can be fun. And there's still a lot of cool decks out there, and there's still a lot going on. So a lot of new cards coming out all the time. It's still a sweet game. And I think the sooner we can get to a point of just kind of being amused by the nonsense instead of going off in a rage on the nonsense is the better off we'll be. So if you're one of those who's inclined to just take magic seriously because that's how your personality works, I've been there. I often am that person. Right now, I'm just trying to remember that it's going to be a dumpster fire and I'm going to enjoy it anyway.
I mean, it's Commander all the way down, right? That's really the takeaway, is that you peel back the competitive play announcement and it's just freaking Commander underneath. So
yeah,
get used to casual, nerds. Let's go. All right. That's going to wrap up this episode of the Arena Craft podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. Thank you so much to all of our wonderful patrons who support the show. If you would like to become one of them, go to patreon.com/ArenaCraft podcast. You can find this show on Spotify. It is on Spotify. Go look again. It's on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and basically all of the other places that you find podcasts. I stream occasionally on twitch.tv/ArenaCraft podcast. Covert Go Blue streams much more often at twitch.tv/Covert Go Blue. If you're watching this on his channel, I don't need to say anything more about that. But if you've never gone to Covert Go Blue's YouTube channel, which there's occasionally a few people crawl out from underneath a rock and discover that, go watch him on there and you can basically figure out what the best of one ladder is going to look like for the next week. All right, crafties, thanks so much for hanging out. Catch you next time. Today's listener CG Ice Cream asks
Go ice cream.